The transport ship Galactic Unity shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace above Zarian Prime through the reinforced viewport. Staff Sergeant Marcus Rodriguez watched the massive space station grow larger, its gleaming towers and docking bays stretching across what looked like a small moon. The station housed the Galactic Combat Assessment Center, where warriors from across the known galaxy came to prove their worth. Marcus adjusted his dress blue uniform and checked his gear one final time. The ceremony today wasn't just about him, it represented Earth's first official entry into the Galactic Military Exchange Program. After 3 years of negotiations, humanity had finally been granted the right to participate in the galaxy's most prestigious military evaluation. "Nervous, Marine?" asked Ambassador Chun from across the passenger compartment. The diplomat had been assigned to oversee this historic moment, ensuring nothing went wrong during humanity's debut on the galactic stage. "No, sir," Marcus replied, though his jaw was tight. "Just ready to show them what Earth's finest can do." The truth was more complicated. Marcus had volunteered for this mission knowing the odds were stacked against him. According to the briefing files, every species in the Galactic Federation possessed physical advantages that made them superior warriors. The Krathri had bone density 3 times that of humans and could punch through steel plates. The Vorthik stood 12 feet tall and could tear apart combat mechs with their bare hands. The Zephyrian warriors moved so fast they appeared as blurs to most organic eyes. Then there were humans, average height, average strength, average speed. The Federation had only accepted Earth's application out of diplomatic courtesy, everyone knew that. The galaxy's military elite saw this as entertainment, watching the primitive species from the outer rim embarrass itself in front of civilized society. Marcus didn't care about the politics. He'd served 3 tours in Afghanistan, 2 in Syria, and had personally led the extraction team that rescued Ambassador Chun from terrorists on Europa Station. He knew what humans could do when pushed to their limits. Even if the rest of the galaxy was about to learn it the hard way, the docking procedure took 20 minutes. When the airlocks finally cycled open, Marcus stepped into a world unlike anything he'd imagined. The main concourse of Zarian Prime stretched for miles in every direction, filled with beings from dozens of different species. Towering reptilian Serani merchants hawked exotic weapons. Graceful, ethereal Luminians floated past on personal gravity fields. A group of insectoid chitters communicated through rapid clicking sounds that echoed off the high ceiling. "Impressive, isn't it?" Ambassador Chun said as they walked toward the military sector. The Federation represents over 400 species across 12 galactic sectors. Some of these civilizations were exploring space before humans had invented the wheel. "And now they're all here to watch me fight," Marcus observed. "Not fight, demonstrate combat capability. The assessment is more like an exhibition match. You'll be paired against warriors from 3 different species in non-lethal scenarios. Think of it as a cultural exchange with weapons. They pass through several security checkpoints, each one requiring biometric scans and weapon declarations." Marcus carried standard Marine equipment, an M27 infantry automatic rifle, M18 modular handgun system, combat knife, and basic tactical gear. Compared to the exotic energy weapons and powered armor systems he saw other warriors carrying, his equipment looked like Stone Age artifacts. The assessment center itself was a marvel of engineering. The main arena could reconfigure itself into any battlefield environment through advanced holographic projection and matter manipulation technology. Seating surrounded the arena in multiple tiers, with special accommodation sections for species with different atmospheric or gravitational requirements. "Your first match will be in 3 hours, Ambassador," Chun explained as they entered the preparation area. "You'll face a Krathari shock trooper in a close-quarters urban scenario. The safety protocols will prevent actual injury, but the pain feedback is completely real." Marcus nodded and began his equipment check. Around him, other warriors made their own preparations. A massive Vorthik warrior, easily 11 feet tall, was testing a weapon that looked like a handheld cannon. Its 4 arms moved in perfect coordination as it ran, through combat drills that would have been impossible for a 2-armed. "Species? Primitive creature," the Vorthak rumbled in. Heavily accented Galactic Standard, clearly referring to Marcus. The Federation wastes time with this charade. A Zephyrian warrior nearby laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a hurricane. I heard their homeworld is still using chemical propulsion for space travel. How quaint. Marcus continued his preparations without responding. He'd learned long ago that actions spoke louder than words, especially when those words came from people who'd never been in a real firefight. These warriors might have superior technology and physical capabilities, but they'd grown up in a galaxy that had known peace for centuries. The last major conflict had ended before Marcus was born. Earth was different. Humans had never known true peace. Even now, with most of humanity united under the world government, conflicts still erupted across the solar system. Mars independence movements, asteroid mining disputes. Religious extremists in the Jupiter colonies, humans fought constantly. Against others and against the hostile environments they insisted on colonizing. Attention warriors, an announcement echoed through the preparation area. The assessment begins in 1 hour. All participants report to staging areas. Marcus finished his gear check and made his way to staging area C. The crathery he would face was already there, a 7-foot-tall mountain of muscle and bone plates. Its species had evolved from predators on a high-gravity world, and every inch of its body showed that heritage. Razor-sharp claws extended from its fingertips, and its teeth could tear through most known metals. "You are the human," the crathery said, its voice like grinding stone. "I am Combat Prime XHY. I have defeated warriors from 27 species in arena combat." "Staff Sergeant Marcus Rodriguez, United States Marine Corps," Marcus replied formally. "Pleasure to meet you." XHY's eyes narrowed. "Your species amuses me, human. You carry such primitive weapons, yet you speak as if you belong among true warriors." "Weapons don't make the warrior," Marcus said. "Training does." "Experience does." "Experience?" The XHY laughed, a harsh barking sound. "What experience could your short-lived species possibly have? My people have been perfecting combat techniques for 10,000 years. Marcus was about to respond when the staging area fell silent. A new warrior had entered, tall, graceful, and radiating an aura of superiority that made even the other aliens step back respectfully. The newcomer wore the silver and blue uniform of a Galactic Federation elite guard, one of the most prestigious military units in known space. "Captain Veltar," XHY said, immediately bowing. "I did not expect to see you here today." Captain Veltar was Luxarian, from a species that considered itself the pinnacle of galactic civilization. Luxarians had been the dominant force in Federation politics for over a millennium, and their military prowess was legendary. They possessed enhanced reflexes, superior intellect, and technology so advanced that most other species couldn't even understand how it functioned. "I came to observe the demonstration," Veltar said, his melodious voice dripping with condescension. "The Council insisted that this primitive species be given an opportunity to embarrass itself publicly. I wanted to witness this historical moment firsthand." The captain's gaze fell on Marcus, scanning him from head to toe like he was examining an interesting insect. "So this is what passes for a warrior among humans. How disappointing." Marcus felt heat rise in his chest, but kept his expression neutral. "Captain Veltar, I assume? I've read about Luxarian combat doctrine. Very impressive theoretical framework." "Theoretical?" Veltar's perfect features showed the slightest frown. "Our doctrine has been proven in countless engagements across the galaxy." "Against who?" Marcus asked innocently. "The last major conflict in this sector was 300 years ago. Most of your engagements have been police actions against pirates and smugglers." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Every alien warrior in the staging area turned to stare at Marcus, their expressions ranging from shock to outrage. No one questioned Luxarian military supremacy. It simply wasn't done in civilized, Galactic Society. Captain Veltar took a step forward, his hand moving to rest on what Marcus assumed was a weapon. "You dare question the combat effectiveness of the Federation Elite Guard?" "I'm not questioning anything," Marcus replied calmly. "Just making an observation." Earth has been fighting constant wars for our entire recorded history. We've had world wars, civil wars, colonial wars, religious wars, wars over resources, wars over ideology. We fight in space, on planets in zero gravity, underwater, in hostile atmospheres. Fighting is what humans do? Crude barbarism, Veltar sneered. Any species can resort to violence. True military excellence requires discipline, training, and superior technology. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. You're probably right. Guess we'll see how superior training and technology work against crude barbarism. The announcement system crackled to life. All participants to the arena floor. The medical bay aboard Zarian Prime had never treated a Federation. Elite guard for combat injuries inflicted by a primitive species. Dr. Kethra, a renowned Zephyrian physician, ran her scanner over Captain Veltar's neural interface for the third time, unable to believe the readings. The damage is minimal, she announced to the assembled medical team. Precise neural disruption that disabled enhancement systems without causing permanent injury. I've never seen such surgical application of force. Ambassador Chun stood nearby, still processing what he'd witnessed in the arena. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez had not only defeated a Federation, elite guard in single combat, he'd done it well, showing restraint that impressed even his opponent's allies. How long until Captain Veltar recovers? Chun asked. His enhancement systems should reboot within the hour, Dr. Kethra replied. But the psychological impact? That may take considerably longer to heal. Through the medical bay's viewport, Chen could see the arena plaza filled with crowds of aliens engaged in animated discussions. News of the humans' victory was spreading through Zarian Prime at light speed, and reactions were varied. Some species were excited by the upset victory, others were disturbed by the implications. And a few were already questioning fundamental assumptions about galactic military hierarchy. Marcus entered the medical bay still wearing his dress blue uniform, though it was now marked with scorch burns from Veltar's energy weapon. He moved directly to Captain Veltar's bedside, ignoring the stares from medical personnel who had never seen a primitive human up close. Captain, Marcus said formally, how are you feeling? Veltar's perfect features showed confusion that seemed to go deeper than physical injury. You defeated me, completely, yet you ask about my welfare? You're a fellow warrior who fought with honor, Marcus replied. In my culture that earns respect regardless of the outcome. Dr. Kethra's antennae twitched with interest. Your culture values defeated enemies? We value worthy opponents, Marcus corrected. There's a difference. Captain Veltar demonstrated skill, courage, and dedication to duty. Those qualities deserve recognition. It was a concept that challenged fundamental assumptions about human nature that most galactic species held. The Federation's xenological profiles described humans as aggressive, primitive, and driven primarily by territorial instincts. But this human was demonstrating something much more complex, a warrior culture that emphasized both strength and mercy. I need to understand, Veltar said, struggling to sit up despite Dr. Kethra's protests. Your tactics in combat, where did you learn such methods? Marcus considered the question carefully. Every human military force develops similar techniques eventually. When you're not the strongest or fastest species on your own planet, you learn to fight smarter instead of harder. Not the strongest? Dr. Kethra's scanner paused in midair. Human xenological profiles indicate your species achieved planetary dominance through superior aggression. We achieved dominance through superior cooperation, Marcus said. Humans are pack hunters, Doctor. We work together better than any other species on Earth, but we've always shared the planet with creatures that could kill us individually. Big cats, bears, wolves, sharks. We learned early that survival meant thinking tactically. Ambassador Chun watched the exchange with growing amazement. Without realizing it, Marcus was conducting an impromptu diplomatic session that was accomplishing more for human-alien relations than 3 years of formal negotiations, Captain. Veltar swung his legs off the medical table, testing his returning motor control. Your knife work, That level of precision requires decades of training. How old are you, human? 28 standard years, sir. The medical bay fell silent. In Luxarian culture, warriors didn't reach their physical peak until they were at least 200 years old. The idea that a being could achieve such combat effectiveness in less than 3 decades challenged everything they understood about military development. Impossible, Dr. Kethra whispered. Neural pathways cannot develop that level of complexity so quickly. Human neural pathways develop differently, Marcus explained. We have shorter lifespans, so we adapt faster. Our brains are wired for rapid learning under pressure. Show me, Veltar said suddenly. Marcus looked confused. Sir, your combat techniques? Show me how humans achieve such effectiveness with such primitive equipment. Dr. Kethra protested immediately. Captain, your enhancement systems are still rebooting. You're not ready for physical activity. I'm not challenging him again, Veltar said. His tone carrying a note Marcus had never heard from any alien, genuine curiosity. I want to understand. 3 centuries of military training, and this human made me look like a novice. I need to know how. Marcus glanced at Ambassador Chun, who nodded encouragingly. The diplomat could see potential diplomatic advantages in this unexpected cultural exchange. All right, Marcus said. But we'll need practice weapons and more space than a medical bay. 20 minutes later, they stood in Training Bay 7, a facility typically used by Federation military personnel to maintain their combat skills. Word had spread through Zarian Prime about the impromptu training session, and the observation gallery was packed with aliens from dozens of species. Marcus held a practice knife similar to the one he'd used in combat, while Veltar carried a training version of his energy blade. The weapons were designed to deliver feedback sensations without causing injury, allowing for realistic combat practice. The key to human combat effectiveness isn't any single technique, Marcus began, settling into a ready stance. It's adaptability. We train to fight in any environment against any opponent with any available weapon. He demonstrated basic human knife-fighting techniques, emphasizing principles that had been developed through millennia of warfare: economy of movement, reading opponent body language, using an adversary's momentum against them, fighting to end conflicts quickly rather than prolonging them. Your species practices forms, Marcus explained as he moved through demonstration techniques. Perfect movements repeated until they become automatic. That's excellent for developing skill, but it makes you predictable. Veltar attempted to follow the human's movements, his enhanced physique making the techniques look effortless. But there was something missing, the fluid adaptability that Marcus demonstrated naturally. I don't understand, the captain admitted after several attempts. The movements are simple, but when you perform them, they seem alive. Because they're not just movements, Marcus said. They're reactions. Human combat training emphasizes responding to what's actually happening, not what you expect to happen. In the observation gallery, military specialists from across the Federation watched with growing fascination. Admiral Geises found himself taking notes, something he hadn't done since his academy days centuries earlier. Note the human's visual focus, he muttered to his aide. He doesn't watch the weapon, he watches his opponent's entire body for movement cues. Is that significant, Admiral? Extremely. Most Federation combat doctrine focuses on weapon tracking and energy signature analysis. This human is using organic sensory input to predict attacks before they begin. Down in the training bay, Marcus was demonstrating another fundamental human concept: environmental awareness. Humans don't fight in isolation, he explained, indicating the training bay's various features. We use everything around us: walls, furniture, lighting, sound, even gravity. Everything becomes part of the combat equation. To demonstrate, he engaged Veltar in a practice bout where the captain had every apparent advantage: superior reach, enhanced reflexes, and a more powerful weapon. But within seconds, Marcus had maneuvered his opponent into a position where a training bay support beam blocked half of Veltar's movement options. The environment becomes your ally, Marcus continued. pressing his advantage. Your opponent has to react to both you and the terrain, which divides his attention and creates opportunities. Veltar found himself backed against the support beam, his elegant swordwork hampered by the limited space. When he tried to reposition, Marcus was already moving to cut off his escape routes. "This is not fair combat," Veltar said, though his tone suggested more curiosity than complaint. "There's no such thing as fair combat," Marcus replied. "There's only combat that accomplishes the mission and combat that gets you killed." Humans learned that lesson from every predator species we encountered during our evolution. The practice session continued for over an hour, with Marcus demonstrating techniques that challenged every assumption the Federation had about primitive species. He showed how humans use projectile weapons not just for direct combat, but for psychological warfare, area denial, and suppression tactics. He explained how human soldiers were trained to fight effectively even when outnumbered 10 to 1 or 100 to 1. "Your species has fought wars continuously for your entire recorded history," Veltar observed during a break. "How do you maintain social cohesion with such constant conflict?" "The same way we maintain combat effectiveness," Marcus replied. "Adaptation and cooperation. Humans fight wars, but we also make peace. Sometimes with the same people. We've learned to separate the warrior from the war." It was another concept that challenged galactic understanding. Most Federation species viewed warfare. The Federation Council chamber was the largest enclosed space Marcus had ever seen. The massive sphere could accommodate representatives from over 400 species, each in their own environmental section with customized atmosphere, gravity, and lighting. At the center of the chamber, a speaking platform floated freely, allowing speakers to address the entire assembly simultaneously. Marcus stood in the waiting area, alongside Ambassador Chun and Captain Veltar, watching as council members took their positions. The sight was both inspiring and intimidating, the accumulated wisdom and power of an entire galaxy gathered in one place. "Remember," Ambassador Chun said quietly, "the Council operates by consensus rather than simple majority vote. You need to convince them that Earth represents an opportunity, not a threat." Captain Veltar adjusted his dress uniform, the silver and blue of the Federation Elite Guard marking him as one of the galaxy's most respected military officers. "The three opposing species will speak first. They'll attempt to characterize human military doctrine as dangerous to galactic stability." Through the chamber's massive viewing windows, Marcus could see the fleet positions around Federation Central Command. Warships from dozens of species maintained careful formations, a display of the military might that kept galactic peace. Somewhere among those ships was the USS Defiance, Earth's first deep space cruiser, looking primitive and small beside the sleek vessels of advanced civilizations. "Council session will commence in 5 minutes. Announced the chamber's AI system. All participants prepare for a formal deliberation." The three species opposing Earth's membership had requested to present their case first, and their representatives now moved toward the central speaking platform. Marcus recognized the lead speaker as War Master Grixtel of the hegemony of Zarthak, a massive, armored being whose species had built their civilization through military conquest. "Honorable Council members," War Master Grixtel began, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. "We appear before you today to address a grave threat to galactic security. The War Master activated holographic displays showing footage from Marcus's combat assessment on Zarian Prime. The images were carefully edited to emphasize the brutal efficiency of human combat techniques while removing context about restraint and mercy. "This primitive species demonstrates combat doctrine that violates every principle of civilized warfare," Grixtel continued. "They fight without honor, using deception and environmental manipulation to achieve victory. Their weapons are crude but devastatingly effective. Their training emphasizes killing rather than martial skill." Murmurs rippled through the council chamber as representatives discussed the implications. Many species had never seen human combat techniques before. and the footage was disturbing to beings raised on Federation ideals of honorable conflict. The second speaker was General Vorthak of the Vorthak Empire, a towering figure whose forearms gestured emphatically as he addressed the assembly. The human military philosophy represents everything the Federation has evolved beyond, General Vorthak declared. They treat warfare as total conflict rather than limited engagement between honorable opponents. Their entire culture is built around constant preparation for violence. The general activated additional displays showing Earth's history of warfare, emphasizing the scope and frequency of human conflicts without explaining the context that had driven them. A species that has never known true peace cannot be trusted with advanced technology or membership in a peaceful federation, Vorthak concluded. We recommend immediate suspension of Earth's membership application and classification of human space as a quarantine zone. The final speaker was Collective Prime Kethra of the Collective of Keth, representing a hive mind species that valued absolute order and predictability above all else. Human individualism makes them inherently unstable, Kethra stated, her voice carrying the eerie harmonic quality of someone speaking from millions of linked minds. Their warrior culture celebrates independent thinking and tactical adaptation. Such chaos is incompatible with galactic civilization. Marcus felt anger building in his chest as he listened to the three species systematically misrepresent everything he demonstrated. They were painting humanity as barbaric warmongers when the truth was far more complex. Furthermore, Kethra continued, human combat effectiveness represents an unacceptable threat to the existing galactic balance of power. If their techniques spread to other species, the result could be destabilization of the entire Federation. The three opposing speakers concluded their presentation and returned to their respective sections. The council chamber buzzed with discussion as representatives debated the arguments they'd heard. Council recognizes Captain Veltar of the Federation Elite Guard, announced the Chamber's AI, Captain Veltar, moved to the speaking platform with the fluid grace that characterized his species. His perfect features showed no emotion, but Marcus could sense the tension in his posture. Honorable council members, Veltar began, I stand before you today not just as a Federation officer, but as someone who has experienced human military philosophy firsthand. The captain activated his own holographic displays, showing the complete, unedited footage of his combat with Marcus. The images clearly demonstrated the humans' restraint and mercy at the moment of victory. The previous speakers have presented carefully selected evidence that supports their predetermined conclusions, Veltar said. They show you human combat techniques without explaining human combat philosophy. The captain paused, allowing his words to register with the assembly. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez defeated me completely in single combat. At the moment of my defeat, when I was helpless and unable to defend myself, he chose mercy over conquest. He helped me to my feet and offered me the respect to do a fellow warrior. Veltar's display showed Marcus offering his salute to the fallen captain, a gesture that drew surprised murmurs from council members who had missed it in the previous presentation. This is not the behavior of barbaric warmongers, Veltar continued. This is the behavior of a species that has learned to balance strength with wisdom, victory with honor, military capability with moral restraint. The captain's next displays showed Marcus's impromptu training session, demonstrating human techniques while emphasizing their practical effectiveness and underlying philosophy. Human military doctrine is not about killing, it's about winning quickly and decisively while minimizing casualties on all sides. They fight to end conflicts, not prolong them. They seek victory through superior tactics and training, not through overwhelming force. General Vorthak stood in his section, his forearms gesturing for attention. Captain Veltar, you were defeated by this human. Your testimony cannot be considered objective. On the contrary, Veltar replied calmly. Defeat taught me more about human capabilities than victory ever could have. And what I learned is that humanity represents exactly what the Federation needs a species that can teach us how to be strong enough to preserve peace without becoming so militaristic that we forget why peace is worth preserving. The captain's final display showed comparative analysis of human combat doctrine versus traditional Federation military principles. The data was compelling. Human techniques were more effective, required fewer resources, and resulted in significantly lower casualty rates. The Council must decide whether to fear human capabilities or embrace them, Veltar concluded. I recommend embracing them, because I believe humanity can teach the Federation how to become stronger while remaining true to our values. As Captain Veltar returned to his position, the Chamber AI announced, Council recognizes Staff Sergeant Marcus Rodriguez of Earth. Marcus walked to the speaking platform feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. Around him, thousands of alien beings waited to hear what he had to say. The future of humanity's place in galactic civilization hung on the next few minutes. Honorable Council members, Marcus began, his voice carrying clearly through the massive chamber. I'm not a diplomat or a politician. I'm a soldier. So I'm going to speak to you as one warrior to another. The simple, direct opening seemed to surprise many council members who were accustomed to formal diplomatic language. The previous speakers are right about one thing, Marcus continued. Humans are different from other Federation species. We've never known galactic peace because we've never been part of a galactic civilization. We've had to create our own peace. One conflict at a time, one treaty at a time, one handshake between former enemies at a time. Marcus activated displays showing Earth's history, but his presentation focused on different aspects than the opposition had emphasized. Yes, humans fight constantly, but we also make peace constantly. Sometimes with the same people we were fighting yesterday. We've learned that enemies can become allies, that conflicts can be resolved, that strength and mercy aren't opposites, they're partners. His displays showed examples of human conflict resolution, former enemies working together, peace treaties that had lasted for generations, military officers from different nations training together in modern Earth forces. The question before this council isn't whether humans are dangerous, Marcus said. Every species is dangerous when they need to be. The question is whether